The Home Secretary is now with us, Yvette Cooper. A very good morning to you, Home Secretary. Thanks for joining us. The conversation with Robert Jenrick there, obviously stemming from the fire yesterday and the arrest this morning, but it was striking that he expressed he'd faced death threats and almost as if it wasn't unusual for an MP to face death threats. Does more need to be done on that front?
Well, I think we've seen, obviously, a significant increase in security for MPs. Obviously, we have had over the last recent years the appalling attacks, including Joe Cox and David Amess. So as a result of that, there has been an increase in the security support provided by Parliament. I think that is the right thing to do. And it's also, things can be increased by temperatures online as well. It's just important that in a democracy, actually everybody feels able to be part of that democracy, whoever they are.
I'm sure you will disagree with some of the comments that the opposition make as it relates to the discussion of the day on the immigration white paper, but is it important that we always only disagree with words?
Well, of course, nobody wants to see violence in any form, not just in a democracy, in the whole of our country. Then it's why we have the work that we have done and set out as a government, which is about reducing serious violence. It's why that is part of our mission for safer streets. So, of course, we take any threats to security, any threats to safety, any serious crimes extremely seriously indeed.
Do we know about the motivations of the arsonist yesterday?
So you'll understand this is obviously an ongoing investigation. The police have my full support in the investigation that they are undertaking. The Prime Minister has thanked the emergency services. We do have excellent police teams in this country who do this kind of investigation, and so we have to give them time and space to be able to conduct investigations. You would obviously understand, as the Home Secretary, I can't comment on the detail of investigations.
Let's move on, Home Secretary, to the immigration white paper. When was the moment as a party that you changed your perspective on immigration?
Well, I've been talking really for 10 years about the importance of migration being controlled and managed in a way that is fair, in a way that works for the United Kingdom. We have had for generations people come to the UK to work in our NHS, to set up businesses, to study, to come here as students. But it's also really important that immigration is controlled and managed. What we saw over the last 5 years was this huge increase in net migration that was driven particularly by this really steep increase in overseas recruitment at the same time as training in the UK was cut. I do think that's damaging not just for the immigration system, but also for the economy, for our productivity as well. We can't simply be in a country where every time there is a skills or a labour shortage, everybody thinks the answer is visas and immigration rather than tackling the training, tackling the labour shortages here in the UK. So that is, I think, an important approach. It fits really with the sort of labour values and traditions that we have always had, and I think it's right to do so now as part of this white paper to bring net migration down.
But I'm interested, again, you mentioned there that fits with traditional Labour values, because it felt like yesterday the Prime Minister went a lot further than we've ever heard a member of your party go, than he's gone personally, and put him in a similar camp as some from the right. He said immigration had done incalculable damage to Britain, and also said that we risk becoming an island of strangers. Do you agree with those words?
Well, I think he also said that we're a diverse nation and that he celebrates that. And I think this is part of the issue here. It is possible to both say that we have had huge benefits through generations by people coming, being part of communities, contributing, and also that will continue to be important in the future, and also say there is a problem with the immigration system, and also say that net migration needs to come down, that the system needs to be controlled and managed, that we shouldn't have the big increase that we've had in lower skilled migration. Actually, we should have more investment in training in the UK. So it's possible to do both of those things, and sometimes this debate, people almost assume you've got to take the sort of one extreme position or another, and actually most people want to debate the detail in the middle. That's what the Prime Minister was doing yesterday.
Well, I think it's possible to say the two things that you just said. I don't know that it's possible to say what, for example, you said in a December 2023 debate in Parliament, with the then Home Secretary, when you were Shadow Home Secretary, you said, immigration is important for Britain. We benefit from international talent and students, on the one hand, and on the other hand, say that it has done incalculable damage to Britain. There is a middle ground with some of these points, but they are two ends of the same argument. They're opposite extremes.
But part of what's happened in the last 5 years is we had a fourfold increase in the space of 4 years. That is unprecedented. So that scale and pace of migration does matter. It does have an impact on nations. And also that sense, at one point, employers were actually being incentivised to recruit from abroad. There was a 20% wage discount that the Conservatives brought in for recruitment in shortage occupations from abroad. Well, that's really a sort of broken approach, because those are exactly the shortage occupations where you need to be investing in training in the UK. So it is possible to say both that we've had huge benefits and also that there are significant problems with that pace and scale of migration, and set out really practical ways to bring net migration down, to get the system properly controlled and managed so that it's fair and so that we don't have these challenges in the future.
I know you mentioned that you don't want to give a specific numeric target. Obviously, the Home Office has estimated that the measures announced yesterday will bring numbers down by a further 98,000 or so. I just want to clarify what the end goal is. We're at 728,000 in the most recent year to June last year. We'll see where it comes down in the next couple of years. Is your aim to keep reducing net positive immigration lower, or is your aim to end positive immigration and actually have a negative number?
Well, we need net migration to substantially come down. You're right, we've not taken the same approach that the Conservatives took by saying that they used to set all sorts of targets, they never met them. I think that undermined the credibility of the whole system. So we need to bring the net migration substantially down. We set out the figure you mentioned, that nearly 100,000, that refers to 4 of the measures that we announced yesterday. There are other measures on top of that, including workforce strategies, including further reforms on family and asylum migration as well, and also workforce strategies, the immigration skills charge and so on. So there are other measures too. And we're also already bringing the visas being granted, that is coming down. Those further figures will be published on that in just a couple of weeks' time. So people will be able to see the progress that we've made. We also have to recognise there are different kinds of migration. So there is a big difference, obviously, between illegal migration that we want to stop and international students who bring benefits to the country and is about supporting our world-leading universities. So there's different approaches that we need to take in different areas as well.
You suggested, and so did the Prime Minister's, further measures you can take if necessary. What are those further measures?
Well, we've obviously just set out the white paper. So the first step is to actually implement those measures in the white paper. But the point he was making is that we will keep this continually under review. We have a series of reforms that we'll bring in, and it includes linking the immigration system to training and skills for the first time. So requirements for workforce strategies. I'll give you an example of construction. Construction will still stay on a temporary shortage list because we do need construction workers, but we're also setting out plans to train 60,000 more construction workers here in the UK. That's not been done before. We've got to boost those apprenticeships and training. So you link the things together for the immigration system will be linked to these workforce strategies to boost UK training and skills.
Just to round things off entirely and come back to the rhetoric that was used by the Prime Minister yesterday. Obviously, it's led to some of your own MPs to compare it to past members of the right. I put it to Robert Jenrick this morning, and he agreed with the gist of the comments and suggested that immigration has been too fast and too concentrated in some areas. Where do you personally stand on those issues? Do you ultimately think that it's done incalculable damage to Britain?
Well, I think the white paper really sets it out. We think that net migration needs to come down. The pace and scale of migration became too fast. We had that fourfold increase in the space of just 4 years. So we need to bring that down. We also recognise and continue to always recognise the huge contribution that people make where they come to work in our National Health Service, serve in our armed forces, be part of the UK in different ways. It's really possible to both value that contribution that people make and our history as a country, and also say, really, net migration needs to come down. The system has to be properly controlled and managed. It hasn't been. It was out of control, and the approach the Conservatives took, let's make sure those numbers come down, make sure that we can actually tackle the skills, training and labour market issues here in the UK.
Finally, just a quick question on the number of unwanted departures that might be taking place, perhaps because of tax changes, perhaps for other reasons. Do you have data on that, and are they significant numbers of people leaving the country?
I don't know what...
Following changes to non-dom and examples like that?
No, and one of the things that we also set out as part of the white paper was the importance of being able to make sure we can attract the best international talent, because some of the highest skill individuals in the world who can be part of design and science and creative industries here in the UK, that is important too. Of course, everybody needs to pay their taxes in the fair way. That's the same for everyone.
Yvette Cooper, thanks so much for stopping by. Always a pleasure. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, with us there.